Hello and welcome to Odds Now, where darts is top of the agenda today. And that's for good reason, because between now or early October, between now and the end of the year, we've got World Grand Prix, European Championship finals, Grand Slam of darts, Players Championship finals, and of course, the big one when we get to Christmas. So it's safe to say that we are on the cusp of peak darting season. In this video, I'm joined by the king of darts now, Cain, and Odds Now top man and darts betting expert, Matt Hill. We're going to be previewing in this video the World Grand Prix, which starts in Leicester on Monday, October the 6th. It's double in, double out. It's the top 16 in the world rankings, and they are joined by the top 16 in the Pro Tour rankings. A fantastic tournament, and major season is about to get underway. How are we, fellas?
Very well, very well. Good to be here. Good to be back with the fellow darts obsessives of the Odds Now group. And yeah, it's a tournament I love on a personal level, because those who know me and kind of follow my stuff know I like to look for upsets, and I think this major gives you more upsets than any other. I think that's been proven over a long period of time now. Even if you look at the kind of early noughties when Phil Taylor won literally everything, we had the likes of Alan Warner, Colin Lloyd, James Wade managed to pick this title up in more recent times. I suppose Robert Thornton beating MVG in the final, the likes of Daryl Gurney and Jonny Clayton winning their first major here, and even Mike DeDecker last year, I think he went off 125 to 1 to win it. Yeah. Yeah, so it really is a phenomenal major for shocks. I think the double in format is a great leveler, and yeah, it's just like you're obviously drawn to the same names, but you do give a few more players a chance in this, I would say, than you would at, say, Ali Pali or something similar.
Yep. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, on a personal level, it's quite good for me as well. I mean, this was the first tournament that we ever did properly with darts now. I mean, me and Luke Humphries used to always joke that I was his good luck charm, because World Grand Prix 2023 was my first event, which he won, and then he sort of won everything since then. And just to echo what you said, yeah, it is a really special tournament. I don't think it's a surprise that the past two winners have won their first maiden major here, because it is open to upsets, and we'll touch on it later on. But I think there are a lot of names in this field who haven't yet won a major, who will be eyeing up, looking at the price and looking at potentially lifting the title, because it is a leveler, especially with the format, not just with a double in, but also that opening round, first to two sets. It's absolute killer.
Yep, well, we'll start on the outright odds that are going along the bottom of your screen there. No surprises that Luke Littler's 2-1 favourite, followed by Luke Humphries at 13-2. That disparity between the two seems to be getting bigger as every tournament goes on. And I was looking earlier, since we last caught up, and it is only from time to time as the majors come along, the big market mover, if you like, or the one that now finds himself at the top of the market, third in actually, is Josh Rock. He's had a very, very good 2025 so far, and certainly has been shooting up the rankings and shortening in price since we last spoke in this kind of format on Odds Now. And Michael Van Gerwen, a big name, of course, finds himself there at 11-1. We're going to be touching on the quarter by quarter kind of layout, if you like, and format as we go. But any early thoughts on the outright markets there, Matt, as it stands? Littler a worthy favourite at 2-1?
Yeah, well, I am just actually penning my big preview for oddsnow.com, which should be up later today, time permitting. And yeah, I'm just kind of touching on Littler, and this is probably the biggest price you're going to get on Littler to win an event between now and the year. He's probably going to be going off more like 6-4, 7-4 for things like the Players' Championship finals and the World Championship. But it's not a massively bigger price. I don't suppose they can go much bigger on him, because there'll just be an influx of money for Littler. He is that good after all. But like on debut here last year, went out with the first round to Rob Cross, and like Connor talks about that first round in particular being a killer. I think last year we lost Littler, Van Gerwen and Rock in the opening round. So that was like 3 of the top 6, 7 in the betting gone straight away. So when you're taking an outright bet in this, you do have to get over that first hurdle. There is a little bit of a lottery involved in that first match, I think it's fair to say. But in terms of a profile of a player I'm looking for, it's obvious, but you'd think the place to start is a reliable doubler. That is not something I would have called Mike DeDecker last year. I had massive reservations over his doubling, but he just had a week where he could not miss on the double 16. And that is the key to it, ultimately. If you get going on your starting double, then you're off and away. And I suppose the obvious names you're drawn to there are people like Gerwin Price on tops, if he gets it going, and, people like Ryan Searle on tops, and if he gets it going. But for any player, I think it's just a case of playing yourself in, winning that first game by any route necessary, and then I think you could take a more serious look at the makeup of the draw. The first thing I would say in relation to betting on this tournament is that you've got Littler, Rock, and Price all in the same quarter. That's 3 of the top 5 in the betting. Only one of them can make the semi-finals. So if we're going down that kind of line of thought, then you want to be looking elsewhere. And that would leave you with Humphries and Van Gerwen. And again, there's reasons to like both of them, but at the prices, I think there's reason to look elsewhere as well. So you're probably getting this impression, but immediately I'm kind of looking beyond the top 5 in the market for my angle. Connor, I don't know, like of the top players, which have you been sort of drawn to of the big 5, if you will?
I mean, if we're talking the top players, I mean, you mentioned that you're not going to get Littler at 2-1 again. You know, you'll be hard pressed to find Luke Humphries at 6-1. He's a player who clearly loves this tournament. He won it 2 years ago, reached the final last year. Mike Dedecker was brilliant, by the way. Like you said, it is a bit of a lottery in the opening round. I think both Luke Humphries and Mike Dedecker, who made the final last year, survived match darts in their opener. So you do just need to get through that by any means necessary. And if you are going to back Humphries, you have to do it pre-tournament because you've got Nathan Aspinall in the opening round. And that's, I think, part of the reason why he's 6-1. But sort of just looking beyond that and talking of Nathan Aspinall, Nathan's played well this year. I know he's the world number 23. You know, he won the match play 2 years ago, and then he had those injury issues, so he couldn't really build on that. And then he had, you know, he's had a good year, 2 European Tour titles, but poor match play, so that's why he dropped down. But like I said, he is playing well this year, and he's got Humphries in the opening game. He could beat Humphries. He really could. He's playing well enough to do it. Played Humphries a lot in the Premier League this year. 40-1 is a massive price for somebody who's won 2 majors. For somebody who loves to fight, who's not going to be overawed on that big stage. I can't believe he's going up at 40-1, even with playing Humphries in the opening game. Humphries, even though he's still winning the odd title here and there, he's admitted himself he's not playing his best stuff. So in terms of the big, I'm sort of like an oxymoron in what I'm saying. I'm sort of looking at Humphries as one of the big boys at 6-1, but then beyond that, I'm looking at Aspinall, who's drawn Humphries, because that price from 40-1 is going to come way in if he beats Humphries.
I've got the same school of thought with a couple of matches where, you know, I quite fancy a player outright, but I do think that their round one opponent, if they can sort of spring that surprise, has the potential to do a kind of Dedecker-like run through the field. It is really tough to sort of back anyone with conviction here. But there are a couple of prices that have really stood out to me in this market in terms of people who I think have got a good draw. Stephen Bunting, I really like him for his quarter. I think he's landing in a nice section. When the market first formed, a lot of places had Gary Anderson favourite to win the quarter, which I just thought, wow, that's wrong. And that's corrected now. I think you're getting about 2-1 on Bunting to win his quarter. But yeah, in terms of avoiding the big names, he's certainly done that. He's another one where you just worry about him in his opening game because he has had some early exits in majors sometimes. But I think Stephen Bunting is playing as well as he ever has. He still has to go and answer that question of whether he can go and win a proper PDC major. But like we've seen with so many others and already referenced in this video, this is the place to do it. If you are going to get your first major, the World Grand Prix is the place to do it. And I just love the way he's playing this year. He really goes about his business efficiently, scoring well, finishing well. There's not really a weak spot. He's beaten the likes of Littler and Humphries multiple times. He just needs to string it all together over a week. But I thought, you know, there's some firms that have him more like 12-14-1. There's, you know, some major firms that have him at 20-1. I think the 20-1 is too big on Stephen Bunting when you look at his draw. The other one that I'm possibly even more keen on is Jonny Clayton at 28-1. I think Jonny Clayton's maybe been the best player on the planet for the last 6 or 8 weeks. I don't think that's an overstatement. He's probably not got the headlines because he hasn't won loads of events and trophies, but I just went back through his averages over the last sort of 20 games or so, and I think 15 of them are over a ton. He's just playing so well. Former winner here, loves the format, really, really good record, coming in under the radar, and again in a very open quarter where I think Michael Van Gerwen is the favourite for his quarter and Clayton's second favourite. I'm not scared of taking on Michael Van Gerwen at the moment. Obviously, he played very well a couple of months ago, but it's patchy, isn't it? As always with Van Gerwen, this version of Van Gerwen, you can't hang your hat on him. I feel like I can hang my hat on Jonny Clayton. I think the lack of attention around him and attention going towards the bigger names makes him a very attractive proposition at 28-1. And I think the 10-3 for that quarter is also attractive.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, as we often say, the second wave, if you like, of big names behind the big 2 or 3 at the moment. You might want to call it the big 4 with Littler, Humphries, Rock, Gerwin Price. First mention for him, he's having a very good year. And we could threaten to win a major for the first time in a couple of years. Price definitely, but beyond that, everyone between the likes of 12 and 40 to 1, who's as Pyman's mentioned, Bunting and Connor's mentioned Aspinall. They're all very, very well matched, and it just shows the depth in these tournaments. Going back to quarter 1 then, and we've touched on it earlier, Humphries is in there as the number 1 seed, plays Aspinall. Martin Schindler's in there, 16 seed, plays Ratajski. Then we've got Doby, number 8, plays Menzies. And then rounding the quarter off with probably the best game of the first round in that quarter, Rob Cross, the world number 9, is playing Wessel Nyman. Everywhere you're going to turn in tournaments like this, where it's basically the top 32 in the world, you're going to find tough games, but plenty of good stuff to go at in there as well, Matt.
Yeah, there definitely is. Cross Nyman's the opening game of the tournament. Could be the best game of the first round quite easily. Nyman picking up Players' Championship 30 yesterday, which just sort of continues what has been a fantastic year for him. It's interesting with Nyman because I watched him on the Euro Tour. I think it was only a couple of weeks ago, and he averaged like 70 something and couldn't hit a thing. It was the most bizarre performance you've ever seen from him, and it would just plant a seed of doubt when you're going to back him outright to win the tournament that he can go that far off the boil. Because I think that what separates those 4 from the rest is that their B game is still high 90s, isn't it? And you're going to have to average a ton plus to beat them. Nyman maybe does have that stinker in the locker, but if he's at his best, I think he's as good as all of them. I really do. He's a first art merchant with great speed and pace to his game. The double in, maybe a doubt for me at times. It's probably his Achilles heel. He reminds me a little bit of where Josh Rock was a year ago, to be honest, where when he's on and he's scoring, you think, God, this guy could be world number 1. But when it goes wrong, it can go quite badly wrong. So there's a little bit of trepidation backing him. His game with Cross is priced as a coin toss. They're basically both evens.
Yeah.
And there's a big part of me tempted to back Nyman there, but then that red flag just put me off. In terms of the quarterback in itself, I think Nyman is 7 to 1. I think he's an interesting runner in that with that 7 to 1, you are getting a player who can definitely beat everybody in that quarter. And we're only looking at winning 3 games to do so. But yeah, I think Humphries is in that quarter. He's a rock solid favourite. Like Connor says, tough test coming up against Aspinall. I think Chris Doby's an interesting one. In previous years, I'd have been looking at him and looking at that price. I think he's 9 to 2 to win the quarter and thinking rock solid. He's got a really good record here, often makes the quarterfinals or better. Very, very solid opening doubler. But his form's not been great, Doby. He's not quite been at it for me the last few months. So, I think Humphries is a very solid favourite in essence. And I think Nyman is probably the interesting wild card in the quarter for me.
Yeah, just about to that on Wessel Nyman. I mean, I watched him on the Euro Tour and the performances you allude to, and he does have those games in him, and it really is bizarre because before that, he was playing out of his skin, and you think, are we finally going to see now the Wessel Nyman that we've been expecting to? Then he puts in those performances, and you think, God, is he entering a bad patch? And then he goes and wins the most recent Players' Championship event. I think what I would say on Wessel is, I don't think he's very good when games get close, and I think maybe that's due
I'd agree with that.
It's a lack of experience, and it's not just the fact that he can sort of tail off in a match, but you look at where the darts are landing. If it gets 5-4 last leg decider, some of these darts at the trebles, they're going an inch or 2 away from their target, and that is a real problem. And he faces Rob Cross now. They're both 40 to 1 to win the tournament. I think Rob Cross is one of those players where if he's not going to play well, he's not going to play well. But if he is, and he's not going to be someone who's going to be overawed by the occasion. So if he's playing okay and it is a close match, I think he's someone who is going to get over the line. If Wessel is going to win, and I think if he's going to win any match in this tournament, it can't get close. Whereas with Rob Cross, he's a fighter. He'll never give up. We saw it at the World Championship, 4-0 down to Chris Doby, wins 5-4. I think, Rob Cross is always a little bit on the right. I know he's not been in the best of form, but he's still always a little bit underrated. He's still always got the capability of going deep in these tournaments. It's a coin flip.
Well, look at him knocking Littler out last year. He was very unfancied for that match.
Exactly.
I remember backing him at around north of 2 to 1, which over such a short format and an interesting format. It's like that game. If you could tell me who was going to win out of Rob Cross and Wessel Nyman, I'd probably back them for this quarter. But because it's such a difficult game to call, I find myself kind of avoiding both. And I think at least you know what you're going to get with Luke Humphries. You know he's going to turn up. Nevin Aspinall's going to have to play fantastically well to beat him. And if Humphries progresses through that as the format extends, he's going to be very tough to stop. So I think he's a worthy favourite in this quarter in summary. We haven't mentioned Schindler or Ratajski, who are both having decent years. Ratajski's had a bit of a resurgence on the floor recently, probably not got the results his players merited. Schindler is very, very good. I'm still at a place with Martin Schindler where I like backing him on the Euro Tour. I don't really like backing him in the majors just yet. Feel like he hasn't transferred that Euro Tour form onto the big stage. But he can do it at some point, but he's not doing it yet. So I would focus on the winner of Cross and Nyman and Humphries.
Absolutely.
Yep, on to quarter two then, and I think it will come on to, but quarter twos and quarter four, they're the ones that I think, as Matt's already said, that's where he's concentrating his outright betting. That's what he sees the most open. So in quarter two, we've got Bunting playing Springer, Bunting the high seed in this quarter, Noppert playing Watamina, James Wade, who's just fantastic. It just keeps plugging away. He's better than that, actually. Now, for those that haven't tuned into much darts so far this year, James Wade is doing better than the usual James Wade cliches. He's the world number 5, could easily find himself in the top 4 by the end of the year. He plays Joe Cullen, and then you've got Gary Anderson and Raymond van Barneveld, one for the veterans there in the final game of that quarter. Go to you first on quarter two, Connor. What was your early thoughts on that one?
Well, you mentioned James Wade, so I'm going to start with James Wade. I feel like James can sort of present the image a lot of the time that he sort of turns up, earns a paycheck, and he don't really care. But, I've spoken to James quite a bit the past few months because he's been winning. And he does care, he has got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He does really have a problem with people writing him off. And he's not got a problem with the Littler and the Humphries, but he's got a problem that people aren't really rating James, no matter what he does. It's made the UK Open final. It's made the World Match Play final. And even though people are starting to talk about him again, he's thinking in his own mind, why is it taking that for people to start talking about him? He wants the Premier League, and he's spoken about that multiple times. And I think because he's got that desire, because he's got that want, is a real danger. Because James Wade, more than anyone, I think, it's all up there. It's all in the mind. Is he focused? Does he want to win? And I think he's going to be really focused. So I will take James Wade to win any tournament at the moment outright, because I think no matter what with James, he is always going to be underpriced, because people always seem to be expecting that one bad game. But you look at the quality of play at the match play. We associate James Wade with winning ugly games. He was phenomenal all throughout that tournament. If Littler was off it, if he wasn't at his best, he would have lost. And it's as simple as that. And he's facing Joe Cullen again, facing him in the opening round of the World Match Play. Joe Cullen, I know he won a title not long ago, and he's got the odd game where you're thinking he's Joe back, but he's not a very good year. He's playing poorly, and James Wade's going to jump all. I will be shocked if Joe Cullen can beat James Wade even in this format, because Joe, he's really struggling at the moment, and I really do worry for him. And just to touch on the others a little bit, there are a few other people who've had a good year, like Jermaine Watamina, but lately he's really gone off the boil. He had a really good performance at the most recent Euro Tour, but I think back to that game in Amsterdam, he couldn't hit a double to save his life, and that also did continue for a few events as well. He's so erratic, even in this sort of, not purple patch, but this sort of improved Jermaine Watamina, if you will. He's still so erratic, and he's someone that you won't really touch. So I am going to go with James Wade. I've gone with James Wade at the World Match Play. Just came up short with him losing to Littler in the final. And in terms of the others, Barney, Anderson, Noppert, I don't think you can trust their consistency. And Springer, we all know the potential. I'm sure Matt will touch on Springer, but we've not really seen him on a TV stage, so he's still a bit of a question mark above his head.
Yeah. Well, I will touch on Springer because he plays Bunting in the first round, and it's a little bit of a paradox, like what you were talking about earlier, where like I'm looking at Springer as an outright price and thinking if anyone is to do a Dedeker and just have a week where everything goes well, it maybe would be him, because I think Springer's game is very simple. I've said it for a long time. I think his scoring is as good as anyone. If the doubles click, he can win tournaments. If the doubles don't, he can lose to anyone. He has some really erratic performances on the outer ring. Not what you want for a World Grand Prix winner. But again, in the Dedeker mold, if he can just find a double that starts firing for him, like it did when he won on the Euro Tour a couple of weeks ago, then he's a danger. However, he plays Stephen Bunting in round one. I've already made my case for Stephen Bunting as an outright selection at 20 to 1. I think he's too big. He's not bulletproof, despite what his entrance song says. He does have chinks in the armour, Bunting, but there's no doubt that he's an improving player. He gets better and better. The experience this year of the Premier League, though it didn't go how he wanted it to go, I think it stood him in really good stead, playing the best every week. It's definitely dragged his sort of base level up. I think he's getting that B game now that I associate with great players. He could still win games not playing that well. In fact, he did that at the World Match Play, stumbled through the first 2 rounds, playing pretty badly, still beating quality players in the process. So he definitely does have that in the locker. With Bunting, there is a little bit of that logic to me that I think the World Grand Prix is the kind of major he can win as well, where there's probably not as many prying eyes from the general public. There's a little bit of a quirky format involved. The crowds aren't going to be rowdy in Leicester, are they, compared to what we've got coming up in the future months, put it that way. So this does feel like a good arena for Bunting to get that first elusive PDC major for me. I think Gary Anderson and James Wade are the wrong way around in this market. I think James Wade should be second favourite to win the quarter, definitely. Anderson is 10-3, Wade 11-2. I think you can swap them prices round. And I wouldn't argue a word with what Connor said, that 11-2 on James Wade to win this quarter is a really, really good saver if you do fancy Bunting like me, because he's the man that you just would fear. I think everybody must fear playing James Wade at the moment. Nothing more needs to be said. Danny Noppert 13-2 had a great run to Euro Tour final, losing to Springer in a deciding leg. He is a very reliable operator. You would associate this format with something that would be good for Noppert as a good doubler and a good finisher. But I just can't get excited enough about Danny Noppert to go and win a tournament like this. I don't think he's quite got it when it comes to playing the biggest names on the biggest stages. I think he's very reliable, but probably not got one of these. I know he won the UK Open, but that was more about Michael Smith's collapse in the final, wasn't it, than Danny Noppert's win, unfortunately for him. So yeah, in a nutshell, this is pretty boring, but I think Bunting's rock solid at 2-1. I think if you have a saver on James Wade at 11-2, you'll probably have the winner of the quarter between them.
Yep.
Nice ping at a good time there. Quarter three is we got a bit of a klaxon there for the quarter of death. Ping! Because quarter 3, where you've got Littler playing Gian Van Veen, who is, again, since we last caught up on one of these types of video on the Odds Now channel, is a man on the up. Van Veen and Josh Rock, darting players on the up. Last year's winner, De Decker, who isn't even ranked coming into this tournament, or seeded, should I say, against Peter Wright. Gerwin Price and Ryan Searle, that could be a cracker in the first. And then Josh Rock and Ryan Joyce making up this quarter. So basically, Littler, Van Veen, Price, Rock. Take your pick.
Yeah, take your pick indeed. I wouldn't like to be taking my pick, put it that way. This is a quarter that makes it an attractive outright betting market from my perspective, but not because I want to avoid these guys. And there is also the caveat, obviously, that whoever comes through this quarter is, possibly the favourite to win it, because they have been battle hardened by 3 really tough games, or maybe 2 if you're playing Peter Wright. I don't know. But yeah, like of the other 7, I mean, even Ryan Joyce at 28-1, he can count himself a bit unlucky, because if he lands in a weaker part of the draw, he could do real damage in this format, Ryan Joyce. But as it is, he's kind of an afterthought in this section. Peter Wright, he's 33-1. You could probably make him 100, and I still wouldn't be that tempted, to be honest. I mean, we're all going on nostalgia now with Peter Wright, aren't we? Thinking, maybe he could get it to click for a week. Come on, he's been averaging 80 on the Pro Tour as his standard for quite a while now. Wouldn't be surprised if he hangs up the dart at the end of the year, and maybe, well, we'll see. But of the other 6, there's varying degrees to which you could make a case for them. Ryan Searle, probably the weakest of the 6, but he has found some form on the floor this week. He was really, really good. Won a title, made another final. So
and he can't see. He cannot see.
He definitely cannot see, but he can hit a double top. So, I wouldn't discount Ryan Searle all too lightly. Tough game against Gerwin Price, obviously. Before we talk about the big 3, Mike De Decker 10-1 to win his quarter, despite being the reigning champion. I think it's fair to say the year hasn't really gone to plan for Mike. There was talk of the Premier League after he won this 12 months ago. Many people thought he should be in it. I think we've probably seen that the PDC made the right decision, and that he doesn't have the consistency yet to be in that mix. But if he hits that double 16 like he did last year, who knows? He might go on another run. I think it's between the 4, and I'm including Van Veen in that. I think he could very much beat Littler in the opening round. Definitely could. They've played 3 times since their World Youth Championship final, and all 3 this year. and Van Veen has won all 3 of them. So Littler has got questions to answer playing Jan Van Veen. Of course, Jan comes here off knocking out Luke Humphries in the first round of the World Match Play as well. So I think you're looking at Van Veen 17-2 for the quarter, Littler 6-5. I think I'd rather be taking Van Veen, to be honest. And then as of Josh Rock and Going Price, both 4-1. I think you can make cases for both of these guys to win it. Going Price is double top hitting, is always immaculate. He looks destined to end that major drought at some point over the coming months. I think 4 and a bit years now. Adam will probably tell you that he called this, and he did. He did. To be fair, he said Going Price will never win another major 4 years ago. That was a bold call at the time. It's looking.
Well, I wouldn't make the set. I'm sticking by it, obviously, because I said it 4 years ago. But I'm not. I wouldn't say it again now. If I was starting from scratch now, I wouldn't say it again.
But he's had to come back, hasn't he? Because you were right in predicting the kind of lull that came. But I've discussed this in columns previously and stuff. I think there's reasons for why Going Price has struggled so much, and I think those reasons have sort of eroded now. And I think a big win will come for him in the next few months. Playing too well not to. Not sure it will be here. And Josh Rock, again, I love Josh Rock. I think he's a very interesting runner at the World Championship this year, but I'm not sure this is the tournament for him. So of the 8, I wouldn't want to be hanging my hat on one to come through this quarter. I think it's really, really tough. Jan Van Veen makes appeal to me at 17-2. I think that head-to-head record against Littler is really, really interesting. Littler went out at round 1 here last year, and if there was one fault in his marvellous game, it would be the outer ring Littler, wouldn't it? So Jan Van Veen got the highest doubling percentage in the PDC this year as well. Will that count? We shall see. You
could definitely see Littler if he gets frustrated in 1 or 2 legs. He could be going for doubles all around the board 20, 10, 15, 16, 8.
Bullseye,
He could be honestly, he could be going all over the board, or he could be spreading it all over if he starts getting a little bit frustrated, playing up to the crowd a little bit. I could see him pinging it around all over the place. Right, on to the 4th and final quarter. Van Gerwen is the 3rd ranked in here. He's the highest rank in this section. Van Gerwen against Dirk, an all-Dutch clash there. We've got Ross Smith, who won a Pro Tour this week against Daryl Gurney. Jonny Clayton, who Matt has tipped alongside Bunting. Clayton plays Andrew Gilding. And Damon Heta plays Luke Woodhouse in the final game. And I think that clash between Heta and Woodhouse is definitely pretty close in the betting, and could be of interest there for Woodhouse backers at 6-4 was my opinion.
Yeah, it's an interesting quarter, this one. I mean, like what Matt said earlier on, Michael Van Gerwen, you just can't go near Michael Van Gerwen at the moment. I think the most surprising thing that we've seen from Van Gerwen this year is probably that win in Amsterdam. Not just a win, but the level he was playing at. I mean, where does it come from?
Oh, it's fantastic that weekend.
It was unbelievable. And he became the first man ever to lift a TV title, beating Luke Humphries and Luke Littler in the same tournament. And don't forget, he beat Josh Rock in the same tournament as well. We've heaped praise on Vessel Nyman in this video. He beat him as well. So it was unbelievable. And you're thinking, right, is this going to kickstart something? Then he missed 4 match starts against Danny Nopper in the Euro Tour after that. Then he's had a couple of pro tours where he needs to get ranking points. We drew from the final one, even though he can't really afford to do that. So there's so many question marks. And when there's question marks around someone, you really want to avoid them, especially when they're a really, really short price like that. I think Damon Heta's an interesting one. He's a frustrating one, really, because I always felt like Damon Heta could really get close to a major, and he's purpose built for the Premier League. And I think the PDC are really willing him to really do something. And just when he was getting closer, I think he's just taken a step back. And in Luke Woodhouse now, he's got someone who's probably playing some of his best starts. He's still a little bit inconsistent, but he's got that real top level. He recently broke the record average in Switzerland, the most recent Euro Tour, 110 average, I think it was. And he's currently the highest ranked player in the PDC who hasn't won a title. I don't think any of us are really considering him about lifting the World Grand Prix, but he's certainly got the tools to beat anyone, to beat Damon Heta. And it's a really unpredictable quarter. I think if you are going to hang your hat on someone, and I think Matt would agree, he's touched on it earlier on, it's going to be Jonny Clayton. He is someone who, like you said, Matt, he has gone under the radar. Some of his performances have been unbelievable, and he's won this tournament before. And he's someone who he doesn't seem to feel pressure, Jonny Clayton. And it's the World Grand Prix, it's a doubling format, and obviously you need to hit in the outer ring. But I think people underestimate in this format, you've still got to be a good scorer. There's no point getting in first or second dart and then just hitting tone 85. If if you say you take Ross Smith, for example, who is a massive scorer, if he gets in third or fourth that, but then he goes 180, 140, which is a typical Ross Smith, he could be a real danger. So let's not underestimate that. So I would say Jonny Clayton, but I think Ross Smith, on the back of his most recent Players' Championship win, with his scoring, which I think is super important, I would like to look at him as well. But Van Gerwen as the favourite to win this quarter, I won't go anywhere near.
Yeah, I'd agree, Connor. Like, I took a similar approach to what you're kind of saying. Like, who can I rely on in this quarter? And there's not many. Can't rely on MVG. Can't rely on Heta. Can't rely on Dirk van Dijvenbode. Definitely not.
No,
Luke Woodhouse playing really, really well, but still for me, probably just lacks a bit of self-belief on the biggest stage. Could definitely win individual matches, but can he win a title like this? Probably not. I mean, he had a great chance to win that Euro Tour last weekend, and he didn't quite get there. Really good run, but you've got to have that killer instinct, haven't you? And then even at the bottom of this market, let's not completely discount Daryl Gurney, who's having a great year and he's dangerous. Previous winner here, likes the format, and Andrew Gilding, who just scrubbed Jonny Clayton with 110 average 6-0 yesterday. 6-0, he's 20-1 out ragging this quarter, and we discounted him in previous events, and he goes and beats somebody of note in the first round and the second round. So he's a dangerous runner. But I just think Jonny Clayton
on TV, doesn't he, Andrew?
He does. Yeah. Look, he's an enigma in every sense of the word, but you can't overlook him. But I do think that Jonny Clayton is just rock solid. Like I've said it many times, what I want to see from Jonny Clayton when he's playing well, lots of 140 hitting. He's never been a big 180 hitter, but he is a big 140 hitter. And 140s win your legs, to be honest. And previous winner here, he's doubling. I think he's in the top 5 doublers in the PDC this year. All the forms trending the right way. I think he's really solid at 10-3. And I agree, Connor. I think the saver is Ross Smith at 13-2, playing really well. Obviously picked up a very emotional title in midweek after I think he lost his mum quite suddenly. So that was a really nice win for him. You wonder how he's feeling after something like that, and obviously the emotional baggage attached to such a bereavement. Obviously bounced back very, very well to win that, but does he have the energy to kind of go and win this? I mean, I remember when Jonny Clayton lost his dad, and he looked emotionally sort of drained, didn't he, for months after. So we'll see how that impacts him. But MVG, he can turn up and make us all look like mugs. He can win this, no doubt, but the price is short enough, and I'll be taking Clayton for the quarter.
Any special markets you're going to be touching on, Pieman? I know you'll probably be doing match bets on the oddsnow.com column daily. So we'll take any specials off you, then we'll go for some outright winners and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, there's not really any specials that have emerged yet. I mean, I'm going to troll my way through those markets because they are just starting to pop up. But no, like I say, I'm mainly focused on the outright. Kind of the ones I mentioned are my main bets, the outrights, Bunting and Clayton. Might take one more, Mumin and Arin. But yeah, I think the winner comes from probably 40-1 or below this year. I don't really see another Dedeker in this field. And then, same guys for the quarters with the savers mentioned, really. I think it's a very interesting market. Tread with caution in round 1 would be my main advice. And don't be frightened to back an outsider in round 1 either. I think, around half of the games last year in round 1 saw the betting outsider win, some of them at really big prices. So if you wanted to roll a couple of outsiders up, let's try and pick a couple of outsiders that might have a chance of winning. I'll be doing this off the cuff, mind, but I think I've kind of already said. I mean, you mentioned Luke Woodhouse as a potential against Damon Heta. He is 6-4 to win that match, and that is got to be of some interest when you see Damon's recent record. And I thought Ryan Searle and Jan van Veen were both quite interesting against Price and Littler, to be honest. They're both 2-1 region, and neither result would surprise me.
What's Joyce against Rocky? Because Rock shows some vulnerabilities, and
Joyce is 5-2, 13-5.
I think that's in this format with his double 16 hitting. And
did he not beat him last year in round 1? I might be getting mixed up there, but
he reached the semi-final last year. I'm not sure if
he definitely in a tournament. Joyce knocked out Rock in round 1, so I mean he's got previous.
Ryan Joyce is the biggest price of any first round player. He's over. He's over.
Yeah, 5. He beat Rock 2-0 in the first round last year.
Right. I think at 5-2, that's an incredible price. I mean, I echo what you said. I think if you don't really want to be doing an accumulator in the first round of the World Grand Prix. I think you just want to be number 1, get your singles on, and 2, back the underdogs. Highlight where you think there's going to be a danger and back the underdogs. 5-2, I think, is a huge value for a format that is a big leveler.
Because there's some games we can just discount the dogs. I mean, Peter Wright, I wouldn't back him at any price, I don't think. And Mike Decker's not exactly reliable. But, there are a couple that I wouldn't go for the outsiders. But generally, if you fancy an outsider, back them. You won't go that far wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be backing Humphries. I think he's the world number one. He's got a much better draw than Luke Littler, much safer draw. I think he can beat Aspinall round one with the usual caveats of first to two. And I think he's got the better end of the draw. And he's 3 times the price of Luke Littler. That will do for me. Who's your winner then, Connor?
But who do I think is the best price, or who do I think will win?
Who do you think will win, please, sir?
I'm going to be really boring. I'm going to say Luke Littler, and it is simple. He's the best player in the world. And I think he's got a level that nobody, even Humphries, can't touch at the moment. So it's a really boring answer. But if I say Littler and people don't say Littler, I'm going to be right more often than they are. Simple as that.
And you'll be there throughout the week representing Darts Now, getting all the interviews.
Getting all the latest reaction, all the latest reaction now. We're getting into the business end. The pressure's on people fighting for big prize money. Even bigger prize money, the £1 Million World Championship. This is, big career changes coming.
And you'll be at the front of the queue to wind the likes up of, Gary Anderson, James Wade. Questions that they don't like. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Which major player will Connor fall out with this year? That should be a betting market, shouldn't it?
Yeah, Gary Anderson.
Already.
Yeah. And Matt, you've said Bunting and Clayton. All the details are going to be on the oddsnow.com written piece that you're putting out, and there might be a video or two to join that as well. So closing words with you.
Yeah, big preview coming up on Odds Now. I'm about halfway through it, so we'll share that out on social media. And then in terms of the videos, I'm hoping to do some match betting. I'll probably do it kind of round by round. So keep an eye on the channel next week for some daily insight and tips, and hopefully a few winners. But yeah, of the two, Bunting is a bit more of a price player because, I think it's Betfair, Sky, Paddy have got him 20s. The others have got him 12s. I think he should be closer to 12 than 20. Clayton, I really, really like. Clayton's my best bet, 28-1. Back in for the quarter at 10-3 as well. I'm quite strong on that.
There we go. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you're giving us a like and subscribe. Check out Connor on Darts Now, myself on Racers Now, and Matt's in charge of Odds Now as well. So join us there. Speak soon. Thank you.